right, and we are recording over here on a different. Where's the gallery view? There we go. All right, I'm trying to get the stuff right so we can see all of us here.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I was just telling Nick, I was trying to get stuff set up on my work computer and everything. As much as you do things the same, there's always something that doesn't work out quite right, and you got to change it up and fix it and all that kind of stuff. So it's a constant going and going and going of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see how
Hey,
people are not.
have y'all had a meeting about what y'all are doing for the fall yet? Schools?
No, that's been the other hot topic. I'll say, what's maybe starting last week and like up to today, more and more people wondering more things on what it's going to look like next year. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think everybody initially, okay, just starting from myself, I thought this first all happened. I was like, no way are we, I'm going to do this later. I got 2 classes set, but the rest will be fine. All right. No way are we not going to go. I was like, we're going to stay in school until spring break. And they're going to like kind of, because nothing much is going on right now. And, you know, I hadn't done as much research on it as I have up to this point. I was still, admittedly so, was like, it's the flu-like type thing. Just wash your hands. Common sense, people. I've been washing hands since before it was cool. You know, like, we're going to make it a spring break. Everything around the nation seems to be starting to close. I bet we may be closed for another week or two after spring break just to give it a 3-week dead period, let whatever it is die out in my mind. And then I was like, then it got serious. And then it was like, oh, people aren't apparently washing their hands. People are still going out and spreading things around. Oh, this is more than just flu-like symptoms. And as we find out more and more, it's not just affecting pneumonia-like stuff. Apparently it's got like kidney things. It's got, so like the longer this goes on, the more we find out about it.
Oh,
All
yeah.
that being said, and then I was like, okay. And then after a while, I was like, no way, we're not closing down the school buildings for the rest of the year. Once that happened, I went back to my mind of like, hopefully things go back to normal. And I didn't even process the thought of school next year not being going back to school, you know? And then all of a sudden you start hearing more. And I think more last week and then up to today, I'll tell you what I just saw, or somebody texted me, was like, what is school going to look like next year? I was like, at first I was like, school's going to look like school. But now the question is, because schools have closed down, like colleges are a bit different because their summer school programs have done so much more. They've already closed for the summers, you know, vast
Yeah.
majority of them. I don't know of any actually that aren't closed for the summer. You know, for like summer classes or virtual classes. But now the talk is like, what's it going to be like going back to school? There is not going to be, I'm starting to switch my bandwagon to like, there's not going to be a return to norm as in like ever completely back to the way it was after this. I'm not sure anymore. Or how close to back to the way it was are we going to get?
I mean, there's always going to be, I think it's going to be for anything that happens, like, because what they're saying is, I was talking to my professor about this the other day. He's saying that they're actually meeting about possibly not doing a fall semester. Well, they're going to do the fall semester, but it's going to be, they said the 2 options are online half of the semester and then the rest back in classes, or just doing the entire fall semester online again, which would be terrible. But yeah, I think things eventually will go back to normal, but it's going to take
It'll be
probably,
close, but I don't think it's ever going
I'd
to
say
be
about
the same.
it's going to be about a couple of years before that happens. I think even when they come up with like a vaccine for this, I still feel that people are going to, you know, it's going to be in the back of their mind. They're going to be like, ugh. They're going to take any little outbreak of anything seriously. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it's going to be.
2 things on that. One, I think colleges are built differently than public school systems. So they are that private institute. And then, yeah, I'll wave down. So,
Wait, I mean, upstate's technically public, but it's
but
public,
like,
but
it's
it's
not
not.
like a
Yeah.
public school system. Like, you know, I mean, you're
Yeah.
paying to go to it. When you pay to go to a thing, You're going to have, you're paying to go to class. You're going to attend class regardless of how it is. And the professor sets up a format, and it's going to be that way, and you're going to go to class. So colleges are a little bit different than your public school setting. Um, I hope we, I mean, for everybody's sake, I hope we go back to school. I hope we resume some sense of normalcy. It's going to lead into my other rant about how people have been going losing their minds on Facebook. But, I think colleges are a little bit differently there. But you mentioned vaccine, and I wasn't even meaning to get into this yet, but I saw another article and reading about things. Like, what's interesting about this too is they're not 100% sure that, like the flu, once you've had the flu, or that's what the flu shot works, you get a strand of that season's flu and you build your immunities to it, right? Mm-hmm. They're talking about with this, they're not 100% sure that that's going to be the case. So far with whatever lab rats or monkeys or whatever they have tested with it, the antibodies for the virus drops like 80%. So it's not a thing that you can't, they're not 100% sure. This is not anything is 100% sure on anything, but they're saying they're not 100% sure that just because say you get it or you were exposed to it and you've built antibodies to it, that they will continue to stay that way. So, so that's just another thing that they're thinking about as well, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of
scary. Yeah, and it also comes with whichever research lab you're hearing from. So that's the other. I mean, I know we're getting into all the media, Facebook stuff here in a second with all of that.
Yeah.
But that's the other kind of frustrating part down here is you try to keep up. One thing you hear takes you one way, then you get a totally different doctor saying something exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
As far as schools go, I mean, I kind of touched on this when it all happened on my thing. I mean, and I was talking to my parents this weekend, and schools are set up from the industrial era. The good thing I see about this is it's going to force public education to get out of that model that does not fit life unless you are a teacher. We have to get, and we can hopefully get to more adopting more of the European style, which even since I've been teaching, I've been an advocate for getting to that, to giving the kids at the high school level that opportunity to kind of go on their paths and do things. Now, on the lower levels, I mean, we're going to go back, but I think you're going to see a staggered, I know I've heard that, like staggered, depending on sizes, certain grades come in at certain days. Like
I've heard the staggered schedule.
But I think it's going to be a positive to really get us out of that archaic industrial era, Henry Ford industrial assembly line, go by the bells, which that's all we know as teachers, but it doesn't fit life. I mean, I know we all remember when we got to college, it's like, where's the bells? Where's this? Where's that? And no, it's called life. Figure it out. So I think it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at, and they always say, and it's funny to me because they compare the American education model to those overseas models, right? And then what they fail to realize is like, dude, like when I lived in Korea and I was overseas, I was like, how come these kids are like at school all day long, but yet it seems like they're out all day long too? Well, it's because they went to school, they left in the morning to go to classes, but then there was like a long break and they had time to do things. And then, so like, yeah, they may have seemed like they were in school from 8 to 5 and I didn't quite understand that. But then the more I realized, like, oh, they were taking classes like college kids. They were doing things. They were out and they were, so they might still have had their last class from 4 to 5, but maybe their first class didn't start till 10, There was a flexibility to all that. So, we've got to, I agree with you, look at that and how things work. And then the other thing I said about this that I think fully needs to happen, and I don't think any educator in America would disagree, was like, one, we're finally going to see forced smaller class sizes. There needs to be more teachers to handle the number of students that we have. And then there's got to be now, like we're moving into a new building, we just built a new school now, but there's got to be more of that happening other than just waiting until your old building is archaic and falling apart, to make sure that we have newer, better facilities and more things, like more buses that aren't breaking down that can transport more kids more effectively and things like that, without everybody being crammed into one bus. Like they made the comment on our thing here, was like, some of these buses are 3 kids to a seat, jam packed. Well, if we had more bus drivers and more buses, then you could eliminate that, and now we can have more space. So I think the things that should have been happening from a long time ago that like everybody in education agrees with are forced. The hand is going to be forced now. Like
Yeah.
smaller class sizes, better facilities, better transportation, more buses, more people in education to handle the loads so that we can continue on
I,
educating this
I
country.
still think it'll be the same record though. Like I know we all, and I was going to kind of hit with saying like it's education. Oh well, we don't have enough money. Well, we just created however much trillions of dollars to give out all this stuff to all these people, which I'm not complaining. I mean, getting that extra money is nice, but in education, they're going to say we got to do this and be like everything else. Here, go do this, but we're not going to give you any extra money.
Yeah.
Hire extra teachers, but figure out how to do it. So
yeah. And that's the other thing I said that we also, and I was like texting with another teacher and I was like 100%, I was like, and we all want this, and I think we all have earned it and will earn it within the next couple of years, even more so. Like there needs to be a drastic like look at cost to pay for educators throughout the country, in comparison to what educators make now. For example, we played the game of life as a family the other day. Tyler even made the comment on there because I was like, if there was no fight, was there really a game? And Tyler was like, nope, no fight, no real game.
Yeah.
But we looked at it. The game was made like that particular board, like 1986. Okay. Teacher salary on that board game was like $22,000 a year.
yeah,
The now starting pay for a teacher with, just, a bachelor's degree is what? 25, maybe 26, depending on what state you're in.
yeah, it depends on the state. So, but yeah, you're about
So we're
right.
talking about 1986, 2020, a $4,000 increase in wages on that.
And if you don't get a master's degree and you max out at 25, 30 years, you're still only looking at 50, maybe 60 grand max.
Yep. Whereas almost everything else on there had changed. Like a doctor was starting off on that game was like maybe 50 grand a year.
Yeah.
Now it's like three figures, so like it's amazing to see what's changed and what hasn't.
Yep.
And that's from the standpoints of a board game. And I'm like, wow.
Anything that is a public service that is controlled, that is paid through tax dollars outside of being a politician does not keep up with the times.
No. And that just kind of really made me look at that and think about that, because from like a board game from 86 to now, not being that far off on what,
And in 86, that was a lot of money.
Huh?
In 86, that was a lot of money due to inflation.
Yeah. So did we think more of our educators back then?
Yes and no.
Yeah. I mean, it just a thought. I was like, I don't know. So,
well, it seems like back then teaching was more of like a noble career path for people. It's nowadays it just seems like they're just like, oh, they're teachers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and you get into I'll touch in the history part of it. At 80, what you're looking at, you're at about 10 years into the Department of Education actually being created. Actually, I think a little bit less. Reagan created it. Carter put it under the Department of Interior. So you're still looking at a generation where the communities supported the school systems. And that was the original idea when it was done, was the school. This was to help supplement, kind of like places like you guys have a lottery, we don't. But the lottery set up to supplement. You don't take away from the education funding, you supplement it. And that was the original intent of putting the Department of Education, for the government to kind of create a uniformity of knowledge and to supplement the states. But as anything else, when politicians, that is not literally written in there that they can't take it away. Oh, here's money from Washington for education. Well, let's take this from our state budget and use it somewhere else. And so now states rely on that. So, but yeah, that's kind of where, there's your little history lesson. There you go. So.
Yeah. I mean, that we just see that way too often. It's like things are meant to, and we still see it in education every single day. It's like something happens and money comes in. They're like, oh, now we can take from this. And it's like, no, that money was not meant as a replacement. It was meant to supplement, things. Like, for example, just like grants and all that kind of stuff. People find out that, say, if I write so many grants, and I'm pretty lucky in my school, well, I won't say they don't do this because, who knows, maybe they have or maybe they haven't. But it's happened before where you write a grant and people think, oh, well, they wrote this grant. We can take what money that the state deems would have gone to their department and we can put it here because like some districts and places will do that. By law, it's not written for that to happen. It's written that that grant is in supplement along with what you have, not in replace of. But so.
Well, and you guys know up there, and I know down here, you talk to people around the country, the communities that pass tax revenues, whatever, that goes directly to the schools to supplement it, those are the successful school systems. Because the parents and everyone has a vested interest. The places that don't, then you see they're in decline. That's kind of what goes on across the board.
It's like right around here, like we obviously our district voted and our people voted. We got the new building and all that kind of stuff. Like Broome stuff, like literally not a half mile down the road, like voted against getting the whole new building and everything. Andy was talking about that. He was like, yeah, like so Broome was on schedule to get a new building, but I think they didn't pass the votes for the taxes to do it. I was surprised. I was like, wow, Broome's just as much of a growing area, being literally right next door to us as well,
Yeah, I mean, you get all the people from like Packlet and all that.
But what's the age of the population over there? Because where I started out in Alex City, we would try to do the same thing, but the population was older. There was more people without kids than with kids. So why would they were not going to vote for a property tax rate hike.
They had no kids in school.
Exactly. Auburn was kind of the same when I got there because of the age of the elderly and the college kids whose parents bought them places who got a right to vote. So the dynamics kind of plays a role in all that stuff that goes on too, which is that's politics. That irritates me.
So. Yeah, no, I was gonna say Broome. I'm not sure how their demographic is, but I know they're more kind of. I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I know about from people who come from Broome, it's usually like lower income, kind of more of like a rural type.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit more rural than we are. Where our demographics are made up a little more inner city. There's
which would make sense. I mean, because that's why they put such a focus on Daniel Morgan. If you look at a lot of the people that come out of Daniel Morgan, a majority of them come from Broome.
Oh yeah.
Especially the ones that do well is because the way they set their classes up are on blocks. Yeah. So it fits the Daniel Morgan schedule better. So I mean, a lot of the people that come from Broome go into those trade schools. Yeah.
So, all right. Speaking of rants, and just I'll make mine a quick one because like we've talked about a lot of other things and stuff. Was like, I just find it so funny right now. Like, and I think part of it is because people are at home, but how people rant about things, and whether you're for staying at home or whether you're for 100% getting out, is not really it's the funny thing to me, even though this person's thing is they're wanting to be, everything should be open and they don't understand. And it's their right as an American citizen. Everybody should be out. And if you're scared, you're scared. I mean, they're kind of like really making a lot of like, in a way, kind of, you sound almost ignorant when the way you state your claims to begin with, because the way you're talking about is like, you're talking about you've earned these. I'm like, I didn't see you in a military uniform or any kind of sort the way you're saying this, or like, it's like, I get it. You want to go out and you want to do things, but there's, other than you talking about the economy and other things. And I was pretty much thinking, I was like, aren't you an essential worker anyway? Aren't you still working anyway? What else is, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I found it funny that like everybody agreed with him. So I was like, okay, it's like, I didn't post anything because, I scroll through a lot of that stuff, but I was like, it's interesting that you can tell people generally post things and you can tell that they post things and they're with their friends and everybody agrees with them. But then you see somebody post that one opposing viewpoint. And then instead of things turning it into an open dialogue, man, they just go to straight like, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 and like offensively attacking people almost. And then it's to the point of like, you're the same people that make posts on other people's things and say, don't get mad, we're just making a point, I'm like, wow. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was saying, your brother D, I knew you thought I was going to talk about D, but it wasn't D, and I almost like post on D's page. D, I appreciate you. I know that you like to troll people on the internet. I know half the time you set up something, you say something, Tyler responds and like blows you out of the water on it half the time, but you're looking for the argument, and there will be a dialogue. Now, can people blow holes in your opinions a lot of times? Sometimes, yeah, but you don't really get, we joke and say maybe you get butt hurt, but like, but you come back and you do it again. But that's kind of like, we know what you're getting. You're not two-faced on the internet is what I'm getting at. Like, Tyler's brother likes to internet fight. He's friends with everybody of all different opposing viewpoints, because the more people with opposing viewpoints he has that follow him, the more dialogue he can create. I mean, heck, he's talked about his podcast wanting to be one of confrontation, want to get on people's nerves. I mean, that's just the type of person he is. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just, at least he's open about it, and he likes that dialogue, and he likes arguing, and he likes debating, and he likes those things. I get that. I respect that. You're that way 100% across the board. You are who you are, and I respect people that are who they are. But it's the people now that say one thing and then do another that just drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Right now.
No, I mean, that's one thing that gets me is a lot of people this is one of the things I hate the most is I'll see people posting online. They'll be like, this is just a setup for government to see how easy it is to take your rights away and stuff. I'm like, no, like, people are just digging to dig for no reason. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people that make these claims saying, it's our right to go outside and stuff would be the first to agree with paternalism, and where they would be like, for instance, if you use the example, should you intervene in a situation that, like, if someone is doing something that's detrimental to themselves, do you have an obligation to help them out? Like, for instance, if we were to take someone who's like addicted to drugs or something, and they're spending all their money on drugs versus things that they need to survive or get their families to survive, most people would agree to say, yeah, you should step in and basically take over that situation for them. You shouldn't let them have that ability to ruin their and other people's lives.
It's called intervention.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And a lot of people agree to that. But it's funny, it's a lot of people who would agree with that are disagreeing with the stay-at-home orders. They're like, no, we should be able to go out. And it's like, see, this is the thing. You're in the situation. You're the drug addict now. You're the one who doesn't know any better, who's putting your life and other people's life in danger. You need someone to step in and be like, look, you don't really know what you're talking about. You're not really thinking the right way here. We need to kind of make things a little strict. We're not trying to take away your rights. We're just trying to help the overall community not go down in shambles. I mean, we've talked about this. Like, a lot of people want to open up to stimulate the economy and all that. I shared the thing about New Zealand, how they did a strict shutdown for about 3 weeks to a month, and they have almost next to no cases now. You shut things down for a strict period for about 3 weeks. I feel the amount of damage on the economy, because you're not going to avoid any economical damage. It's going to happen. But if you shut it down for 3 weeks and make sure everything kind of just dies down, then you're in a position where you're taking less economic stress than you are if you stretch this over until December. You know what I mean?
What I want to know is these same people that talk about opening the economy up and saving the economy and doing this and that. I see a lot of these people, and they're not the people that I see that go to the little mom and pop shops, that go to the small coffee house, that go to, the other places that aren't big industry already. I'm like I said, those places, I've tried to, place orders and do things online what I can with some things that I know are smaller businesses. You know what? I've gotten a few emails from the business owner that says, hey, we thank you for your support right now, and we appreciate it. And I'm like, dude, I liked your product, and I saw that I wanted something, so I found, something that I'd gotten from you in the past that I could find, and, from a small
That's
business.
like we always post about that. For the longest time, we wanted to get sponsored by, what was that, Little River Roasting?
Yeah.
We wanted to get sponsored. Just recently, I've been telling you, I've been working down on the farm. We're about to start planting a bunch of stuff. I just bought 20-something plants of tomatoes from this small little place in Greenville.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be able to get them until Monday. It's going to be a drive-through that I'm going to come out there. We're going to drive out there,
load it,
and they'll load it. We'll head out. But like, I decided to choose them versus going to like
Lowe's
Home Depot or something. Yeah. Like, Lowe's and Home Depot, their bottom dollar is going to be fine regardless. They're going to take maybe a slight hit, but these places that are local, they're the ones who need, the most help right now.
So I'm like, if you can, man, go shop local or go, small business type thing, order a gift card if you can, or whichever. So, but I just
Yeah.
find it funny. People that say one thing, I don't see them actually taking action to the steps to like go out and do those things, like you said, and go to find a small nursery, go, order a gift card from that local coffee shop. So once we are able to go out, you can go have a cup of coffee at the spot, when
Mhm.
it's time, so.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what our plan is. I mean, eventually. Oh, sorry, Nick. Go ahead. I
Oh,
kind
I
of
was
cut
going
you
to
off
say
there.
this kind of jumps right into what we had our dialogue last week about this, and I am an economic person, and I am a person that does believe we need to. And as Ed brought up, when we say open, there needs to be clarification of a staged opening,
Mhm.
not wide open. Open the doors. Like that was not what I was trying to say, and he kind of helped me clarify that. Um, in that, the states that are opening up, what you're saying, the small local retail places, that's what it is. I've been a anti Walmart. I will go there if I have to, for a long time. When you find out about how those places are shutting down small towns, um, but it's interesting. Last week, when we talked about this, I was saying Alabama we were going to open up. Well, this is where it drives me nuts, is because both sides, and we're saying this, we're talking the extremes on both sides. It became politicized here in our state of Alabama, and our governor just got freaking ran all over. And so the next day she has to come back and kind of backtrack and say, oh, well, I'm not talking about opening things up. Well, so today she puts out, right now we are currently at a stay-at-home order effective May 1st, or the end of Thursday, we go into a safer at home order, which basically all she did was say, all right, now retail stores can open up to 50% capacity, but that's it. Nothing else. So it's kind of like you're playing the political game of
But
let's
it's
make
not
this group
doing
happy,
anything.
this
Yeah.
group happy. And the stat I saw here that kind of got into it was, and this gets into the scare media tactic. I don't know how far we'll go into this one, but they were projecting over 9,000 deaths in the state of Alabama. We don't even have 300. And that was kind of where, the one group tries to go with one side goes with the other. Um, so, and I mean, I don't know, I guess I'll look at it from the perspective. It's going to be based off of, that's what we hit last week. Giving it to the states to decide how to handle it is better than the national government, in my opinion, doing it, because we are I told my family that we're a transient nation. We've always been on the go, and that's what keeps everything rolling. So these smaller nations that can shut down, whether it's a democratic or not, it's a lot easier, so to speak, to holistically do it. But the states, the larger populated states, the larger metropolitan areas, keeping those people that are there, in which we have a lot of friends there, it is a good idea compared to, say, a more rural area where, unless you have everything, but those rural areas are going to do the mom and pop shops too.
Yep.
So there's a line, I think, in the middle that we got to work. But I think both sides are wrong. I think the open it up all the way, full extreme, is fully wrong. And I think the fully lock everybody down, that just doesn't work in the American nature of who we are as a country. You tell us you're going to lock us in, that's just kind of contradictory to what we believe in. So.
Oh no, I mean, I totally, I agree with you to an extent. I feel now it's too late to do like a full on lockdown. I feel if it would have been towards the beginning of this, it would have been okay. But now that we've come so far, we can't do it now. But I also agree with you. I kind of hate that the fact that this has become very politicized. I mean, I was talking with someone before Henry McMaster did his stay at home order. He was practically not doing anything worthwhile. I mean, people were still going out. He wasn't really taking a stand on it. And then, yeah, exactly. And then
Stand was no stand.
Exactly. And I was talking to someone about it, and they're like, well, you got to think about it. He's playing the political game here. I'm like, this is not a political issue. I get that, yeah, he's a politician, and to him it may be a political issue. I was like, but this is actually an ethical issue. This is something that has to do with, ethics. This has nothing to do with should you get reelected next year. If you do the right thing ethically speaking, more people would be like, okay, I like this guy, instead of just trying to pander and all that. And that's what
at least people
that's
would
what
know where you
makes
stood, and that's something that
exactly, because you're trying to stand out for what's best for you and what's best for you getting reelected, instead of what's best for the collective whole as a state. Because you're our governor for a
Yep.
reason. Like, we put our trust in you, and right now you are failing us.
How many people knew he was our governor before this?
I had to figure that one out. At least our governor got elected 2 years ago, so she's kind of safe. It's the people that are there. That's what I told my wife. I'm like, they're passing all these stimulus packages at Washington, and watch in November, both sides are going to blame the other side for the deficit, and both sides are going to take credit for it. And that's where like I said, having taught economics and governments all those years, it just drives me nuts because I see what's going to happen in a few years, and I totally agree with you. This is not a political move, but they're making their decisions based on politics. It is 100% based off what is going to happen. The Republicans want to keep power in Washington, and the Democrats want power, and whatever state, whoever is in control wants to keep it. And unfortunately, we are a generation that, like we're talking about our rant, people are going to click on whatever they like for the most part, 99%, and that's all they're going to get their information from. And we're not going to have this great dialogue to talk about. And that, as an educator, it drives you nuts.
That's actually funny you mentioned that, because that was the thing I was going to bring up about social media, about what I think of Facebook. I kind of mentioned it I mean, I can't remember if I said it in the group message we had on Snapchat or if I mentioned it just to Purdy here, but that's the reason why I believe Facebook should not be considered a teaching tool or anything like that. I think it should be purely, and is purely, just a social catharsis, as far as like kind of releasing our frustrations. And that's why you see a lot of memes and stuff. I don't think anyone should go to Facebook to look for any reliable information or get any education, because people on there, one, they're not skilled in critical thinking.
Stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. It's the guy that reads the heading and doesn't read the article. So
exactly.
He's like, you know that there's aliens out there? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, oh wow, that was an attack at me, huh? I mean, I'm just saying they did say UFOs exist the other day. So no, but I'm gonna
look like a TIE fighter in your picture that you
actually I totally forgot about that. So I was just throwing it out there.
That was kind of fun. But no, I mean, that's the thing, is a lot of people on social media, they're gonna share, especially the people who believe in this weird Q movement, they're gonna share these absolutely horrible articles. And they're gonna become from unreliable sources, and that's where they're gonna found their beliefs. And that's the problem. Facebook is a breeding ground for unreliability, and and people just share it and share it and share it, and no one's on there to teach anyway. Like, I had someone tell me, they're like, instead of criticizing, how about you teach? And first of all, I wasn't criticizing, but that's beside the point. But they're like, why don't you try to teach people? I'm like, well, because people don't care. Like, the people on Facebook, they just want to spout their own unsolicited opinion. And then if it's just like you were saying, if it's anything to the contrary, they're going to shut it down. But, I mean, there's no open dialogue.
Yeah, they'll report you, and the next thing you know, you're blasted. I mean,
I do it all the time. I do it to my brother now too, and it drives him bananas. What happens is he'll get in a disagreement about something, especially on text, and I'll start grading his paper, like I'm grading a paper. I'd be like, oh, that's ad hominem. That's a ad hominem attack. Like, or ooh, this is a circular argument. That's logical fallacy of composition, stuff like that. Like, and it pisses people off because it's like they don't know these things and they don't understand those things.
Yes.
But when if they're gonna start attacking you, it's like, okay, it's kind of stooping to their level, I would say. But I mean, they don't realize that a lot of their arguments are just absolutely terrible. Like, they're invalid. They're
humorous to an extent.
Yeah, they are. Like, the one my brother posted the other day, me and him got into it about it, just in a text message. And I was telling him, I was like, you can't use that, because I was like, that argument is just, I mean, it's invalid. I mean, and I showed it, and I told him why. I was like, because if you apply it like this, I did. And this was the mistake, is I started bringing up symbolic logic, and something that he's not very, not many people are versed in symbolic logic. But when you start bringing up that stuff, people are just like, get out of here, nerd. So
it's important to realize who you're talking to. And as educators, we realize that. I think it's like, I'm never getting that oxygen back. Yeah. So sometimes you just look at it and go, no.
So it's funny. So it's funny because you were talking about like the aliens and like unreliable sources. I saw that Q Anon stuff, and like people posting about like Ellen DeGeneres being under house arrest and a pedophile and stuff. And it's someone that you may know. I don't want to say their name, but you may have taught them. So I saw their post, And it was actually the inspiration for my research paper I'm writing now on conspiracy theories. And I've already planned that once I'm done writing it, I'm going to send it to him in Facebook Messenger.
There you go. Thank you for being my inspiration.
There you go.
It's all we can do.
Yeah.
All right. The last thing on this, and then I wanted to ask Nick about the wrestling, since
We have yet to talk about it.
I know. That's okay.
But the one thing that does scare me though is what Nick said, and what Nick said is 100% true. As soon as you tell this country you can't do something, like if you had to stay home, if you have to do this complete 100% lockdown, like there would be a revolt. Okay,
big time.
The scary thing to me is, you know it, I know it, you know it. I'm pointing at all you guys on the screen here. We know this because of who we are, and we have open eyes when we look. Yet telling me that there's not some terrorist group somewhere that does not also recognize something like that and is thinking about a way to, whether it be through chemical warfare, through, just pretty much implementing a virus or something, doing something to attack the infrastructure, make people have to stay at home or do something like that. Just there's things to this that scare me, that the arguments that we've had as a nation and how we've tried to do things and how people have tried to say, well, this is the government conspiracy and blah, blah, blah. Man, you're telling me that there's not other parties that are not watching how this is all unfolding and couldn't want to eventually use it. And this is my conspiracy theory, eventually try to use some of the things that we're going through against us in the future. And then when, as Americans, we're all like, I'm not doing it, the coronavirus was a joke, and then look, everybody's fine. And now they're telling us to do this again, and it is the real deal, except worse because it's been planned and implemented by some other thing or somebody, or I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm going on full out extremes there too, but I'm like, if you want a good conspiracy, tell me that somebody didn't think about a way to take, and that's just how my mind works anyway. But
No, I mean, because I kind of see what you're saying, and what it sounds like you're saying is that someone's going to kind of sit back and then play to the fact that, for instance, like people who call CNN fake news and stuff, there's going to be someone behind the scene who's going to look at that and use that to their advantage and be like, oh, don't worry about that. CNN posted that. Yeah. But instead of saying it like in a good, they're using it for insidious purposes,
Yeah, and imagine if it was truly way worse than coronavirus, and truly, legit, you touch something and it stays on there for 10 hours, and the next person that comes by, except instead of maybe possibly going to say it was something that was killing. I don't know. There's enough science and craziness in the world that you tell me that they're sitting some mad nut trying to think of something like that.
So history guy jumping in again. So that is true. Every democracy has crumbled from within, and we're already on that path because as we've gotten the politicians, people, they realize all they got to do is promise, and that gets the vote, not actually doing anything.
Yeah.
But that, we're not going that one. But what you say, actually, I mean, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but and this is going to kind of counter Tyler's point, but go with me here because that's a great dialogue. And let's don't say if, let's say when, because that's kind of been out there. When something happens again, if it is any time soon and the government tries to do a lockdown again, it's not going to happen. It's not, because people are going to go, well, this wasn't really as bad. And what you said is exactly right, Ed. And I know I'm not going to lie, I'd be the same way. I mean, if it's one of those, it's going to have to be movie theater-esque, you get it, you're stuff's falling off of you within 24 hours. Otherwise, I'm going to be all right, I'm going to go on and do what I normally do. I'll stay home as much as I can. I'll go to the grocery store. I'll come back. I mean, I'll go run my trail and come back. But I mean, most Americans are going to go, and school systems are going to, this kind of coming back, school systems are going to be stuck in a weird spot because what do we do with our kids?
I will say this. I think what's going to be neat from this, though, and I see what you're saying, that a lot of people are going to be like, meh, but at the same time, I do think that I think if we act quick enough, we can justify it. You could have a good president and say, you could a president who's good at talking and say, look, I know a lot of people will disagree with this, but if we do this now, get it out of the way now, we can not worry about it in the future. And I think that's what will happen. But I do think the cool thing that's going to come from this is I think we're going to see kind of a resurgence of kind of like an old school style of living, not old school style of living, but you're going to have more people want to shop local that help these businesses. You're going to have things like,
there's been a lot of good come out of this and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Have you heard what's about to start happening or what's about to make a comeback? It's the thing that reminded me is you mentioned movies. They're talking about opening up drive-in movie theaters again.
Drive-throughs.
Yeah.
Or not drive-throughs, but like the drive-in, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You just come in because it's social distance. Yeah. It's cool because you're going to see kind of like a go back to shop local. Let's really be careful with what's coming into the country and what's going out. Like, I feel like we're going to start seeing more local agriculture for America. Like, not just like, hey, we're going to ship. Because I was actually watching this documentary on Netflix, and I mean,
hey, watch out now. Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. They put some crazy stuff on there, but no, this one was pretty interesting. They did. It's a show called Rotten, and it talked about like food allergies and how we develop food allergies and different things. But one of the episodes was on garlic, and it's interesting to see that like a majority of the garlic comes from China. Like a lot of garlic that's grown here in the States is, it's not as popular. What's more popular is a majority of the garlic that's served around the world comes from, either local farms distributing to China or like China growing it. And the way they do their processes, it's a lot of people are against it. So I'm thinking that after all this, and especially how a lot of people are going to have a lot of distrust for China because of this is where it kind of all started. I feel like that's where we're going to go back to more kind of trying to think of the term. I don't want to say neutral. It's, you know what I'm talking about, where we're just worried about ourselves.
So you plan on growing a lot of garlic at your farm is what you're saying?
Yes. No, we're doing a lot of tomatoes, okra, corn, stuff like that. Stuff that
I was taking over the garlic industry. Don't listen to him. What he's saying here.
I can't say that. I don't want to get sued yet. So
it's actually funny watching because Ed kind of knows this. I mean, I've shifted to more of a vegan, vegetarian type diet last fall and have shifted kind of back to it lately anyway. And it's funny when you start following those outside the crazy ones. But just trying to learn how to eat more. But like how more and more Americans are realizing kind of the way I grew up, and Ed's been to my hometown. Like we grew up raising everything, and the stuff that was no big deal back then when I was a kid. Now you're seeing more people realizing how simple it is to grow celery, grow potatoes, grow garlic, grow a tomato. All this stuff that's there. And I've even taught my kids. We got our little garden going, so they're learning things that for me was a no-brainer. And I mean, it's brought joy to be able to share this with my kids. And so you bring that up, and it's really cool. More and more people are realizing how simple, even if you're living in a freaking apartment complex, they're doing things you can do it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's what's crazy is that you look at people back in the day and what they ate compared to what we eat. Back in the day, they didn't have all these processed foods. They didn't have all this stuff, being mass shipped in. I mean, so it's funny when you take a lot of those processed foods out of your diet, frozen dinners and stuff like that. There's actually a story I was watching, trying to learn about building some chicken coops and stuff. My uncle sent it to me because it was a military veteran. He was in the Marine Corps. He had arthritis and all this stuff. And there's also a clinical psychologist named Jordan Peterson who has this similar thing. He has autoimmune disease. And
I've read some good stuff.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff. They changed their diet and went up to like carnivore diets. The other one, the Marine guy I was telling you about, he went to a vegan diet where everything's organic and natural, and all the problems he was having, the ailments, the achy body and all that went away just because he was eating cleaner products,
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah, it's if you put things in your body that are more organic and more close to home, it's proper fuel.
It's funny. I was, I've been on this for a while because I preach it with our athletes, but I've been preaching my wife for a while and but she's starting to kind of come back to it. And so it's funny. I mean, we'd laugh about it. Kind of frustrates me, but come back to it. But she started some this week and she was like, but I'm already eating all this stuff. And I looked at her, I said, yeah, you are, but A, it's processed, and B, let's look at how much sugar you are. And so I was like, the average woman should have, American woman it says is 25 grams of sugar a day, which we know is still terrible if it's processed. And so I showed her just at breakfast alone, she was putting in like 60, 70 grams of sugar with her orange juice, milk, cereal. And so last week we kind of went through it, but it's kind of been cool watching her eyes open to stuff that I've known. And what you said is exactly right. It started with butter many, many years ago where, I was like, just turned over a butter cart and was like, what is all of this? I can't pronounce it. Then you turn over the other one and it just says,
Butter.
milk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh yeah. So that's when I've kind of gone
If I can read it, I should be able to eat it. If I can't read it, I shouldn't eat it.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's only like that's how I started noticing that. Like if you get those Quaker oatmeal packets, and for the most part they're okay for you. They're not the best, but like if you look on the back and you start reading the ingredients, you'll look at things like maltodextrin, which is just like additives and preservatives.
Yep.
You'll see the sugar, all these different types of things. You buy the old school can that's like this big of oats, that's just rolled oats. You look on the back, it says rolled oats. That's the only ingredient.
Yep.
And go for it.
No, I was just saying it may not taste as good, but at the same time, you got to think about what you're putting in your body. I mean, if you're putting, like, if you think of it as a car, if you put gasoline in your car, it's going to go. But if you start mixing water in there, that's not supposed to be there, which the water would be like these extra preservatives, these extra sugars that are unnecessary. That's when everything starts to break down.
Go and call it ethanol. That's what it is. I'll tell you what, like whenever I was looking to shift and change last summer, and it was kind of weird because I was listening to all the distance runners, ultra people that are vegan. And it's like, we're athletes. We've grown up with meat and you got to have all this stuff. And, these guys are running for 100 plus miles, ladies, 100 plus miles all these days. And it's like, you do it on plants. And so you start to figure it out. But Thug Kitchen, if you haven't looked at their recipe books, man, I'm gonna tell you what, it's if you as a guy athletes, then you start reading that. Not only is there a little bit of vulgar language, but the recipes are hilarious because it'll be like rice, put it in the pot, let it boil. Now let that sit there for a while. So I mean, it's just the way you.
How did you transition from like going to that vegan diet? Because I know when I tried keto, I did the keto diet for a little bit, and my workouts and just like training in the gym, like doing jujitsu and stuff, my body. I was like managing through it, but like I didn't have that energy, and it took me a while to even get remotely used to it.
First of all, I looked at keto and there was math, so I said no. So I'm not gonna lie, I like math, and I was like, why do I have to do math to eat? Ed is like, yes. So true story. So last July, I don't know, I hadn't been on the scale in forever, and I was working in Oxford last year, and so I was driving back and forth, and I didn't really realize that I'd put on as much weight. And so I went for a run and fell and thought I'd actually broken like the bone right there in my hand. So I go to the doctor and I get on the scale and I'm thinking 52, something like that, which is funny because that's what I weighed yesterday when I started this program I'm on. But it was at 160 pounds, and I went, what? And so that right there was just like one of those. And so that's whenever everything I've been listening to for the last year, but I hadn't fully bought into. I looked at my wife and I said, it's going to sound crazy. I said, I'm going vegan. And so to answer what you said, I did my research, and we literally cleaned out our pantry and bought dry beans, dry rice, dry grains. And I knew that I had to eat a lot of beans and a lot of spinach and a lot of stuff. And so I did that way. And I went like four weeks straight with no meat whatsoever, no meat products, no nothing. And was running a ton. I mean, Ed remembers I was doing a ton of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the school year started. We were doing 6 a.m. workouts with my son. And so I was just, we got like the hemp protein shake, hemp protein to put in there. And so I just added there's so much stuff out there that once you open yourself into, get rid of the crazies, there was so much stuff out there. And so I shifted back to it really probably about 3 weeks ago. And I don't know if Ed started yesterday or not with the shred, 28-day shred. So
I did today was the 100 pull-ups, 100 squat. I did the last workout of the other one today. So I'll start it tomorrow or day after tomorrow.
So to kind of pull this back to where you wanted to know, Tyler, I started the Coach Myers, 28-day shred. Our team has been using his off-season weight program
Yeah.
and his home wrestling program. So as soon as the season ended, so like the third week in February, my son and I started his off-season program. First week of March, the team started the off-season program. So I've been doing his lifting and everything since February. Quarantine hit. Mornings, I've been doing his home workout. Afternoons, I've been doing the lifting. So I put on size. Running has been not as distance oriented as it was in the fall, but I've been getting my running in. And but I've put on. I would probably estimate, and I'll say this: I ended the wrestling season at like 143, 145 pounds. I started the season at like the lowest I got was 138. And that was at the peak of my training cycle. So by the time first time in years that I've actually ended season coaching at the weight I started and felt good. So I've probably put on 6 to 8 pounds of muscle with this program.
Yeah.
I mean, so I put on a ton of muscle. And so when I say this, so yesterday I weighed in at 152, 153, whatever I posted. And I'm not gonna weigh, but I'm still going mostly vegan. The thing that I've done is, unfortunately, because I have to keep the protein up in right now, this incorporated chicken thighs,
Mm-hmm.
and I will keep my eggs. So that's the one like true meat that I will add. Actually, I've got it right here. My Thug Kitchen thing. They teach you how to do baked tofu.
Yeah.
So the jerky, man, I mean, I love it. My family thinks it's crazy. But I found out, I mean, there's so much stuff, tempeh, man, we've gotten to where even my kids have started to realize, man, we cook it right. This stuff tastes like meat. And the Beyond Burgers, things like that's pretty good stuff. So,
Yeah, I had those the Beyond Meat though, where it's just like it's a vegetable base.
mm-hmm.
And they were actually not that bad. I mean, they obviously it doesn't taste the same as a normal beef, but we made a meatloaf with it, and I mean, it really wasn't bad. I actually liked it personally.
Yeah, we did hamburger steak this week, and my wife and kids actually prefer not the old hamburger steak with the grease and everything, but they actually prefer it with the Beyond Beef, Beyond Meat patties, or me making it. So that's kind of what we did, but it was trial and error. And actually, Ed can testify to this with kids. Like, it was one thing, like the whole family was on board.
Yeah, you got to get everybody.
Because I made that joke about Amy and them earlier, because we talked for a while, but it usually ended up being me. And so when I told her this, I said, look, I'm going to do this. I would prefer everybody to do it with me. But otherwise, we're going to do what we say we hate. I was like, I'm going to be eating my own meals. I'm not eating meat. I've got to get myself back on track. And it's worked, man. And I can tell when I get off track right around the holidays, football season, start eating too much red meat. I can tell you right now, if I eat red meat,
Yeah.
it's not good. I feel the difference immediately. So right now, because of this program, I will eat a little bit more chicken. I'll eat a little bit more fish. I'll definitely eat my eggs, but I love it. Going back, we're bringing full circle organic, man. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I think right now, we'll continue on with this and then wrap up for today, and we'll save that rule change for next time around, just so we don't.
It just came out today, so give us all a chance to research it. So, but yeah, good.
All right, but like with the programs and stuff, I gotta say, like I was doing the home workout one and supplementing, change it up, because I do have some equipment here at the house, get the little compound going, so I was able to do stuff. And like I said, getting into today's final day of it, man, I did the first 50 pull-ups assisted. Like I had the band on the pull-up bar and I helped out because I was sore from because I didn't take a break yesterday. I did the 5 rounds of pull-ups and then 5 rounds of chin-ups. So my lats and everything were sore, but I was super happy that like after I kind of got warmed up, I did the next 50 unassisted. Like, just I did them in group. I did rotations of 10, I did 10, but I wouldn't have been able to do that today's workout the first day of that program.
No.
And I don't know if I put on a little bit of size. I know my legs have, because all the squats I've been doing with like all these different, tons of lunges, Bulgarian split squats, kettlebell squat, so my legs have gotten stronger, and I can tell that I've gotten stronger just on this workout. I also realized something the last, just talking about dieting and putting fuel into your body, the last, I don't know, we've been out like, 5 weeks, whatever it has been, like the first couple weeks, I had started doing more workouts. I was doing kind of a combination of the home workout, like I said, in the morning. I did a separate workout in the evening and stuff like that because I've had the plantar fasciitis and I hadn't been able to cardio run. So I've been trying to do extra workouts and cardio. And I realized something. I wasn't eating more or less really, or maybe I was eating a little bit less, but I was getting fatigued and tired. I've actually done the opposite of what maybe I've done what most people have done on quarantine. I've actually upped my food intake, because I haven't done with what the quarantine joke is. I haven't just eaten a lot of junk. I've been trying to have like a protein shake for a snack here and there, trying to like order some clean stuff. I haven't gone completely vegan, really tried, but I'm going to get a lot of ground chicken and, egg consumption has gone up because I love the eggs. There's a great source, but like my food consumption, my fueling the body, nuts and other good snacks and stuff, like I've actually upped my calorie intake. I haven't counted it all out because that's math, like you said, but I know I've been eating more, but at the same time, I'm feeling better and I'm feeling stronger, and just trying to fuel my body with the stuff that my body needs in order to do it. Like, I'm not eating more junk food because we're limited on buying it, but if I'm really needing something, like throw a protein shake in the blender or something, have that instead of, a handful of candy or something like that, which we don't have a whole lot around here anyway. But yeah, I kind of found it interesting that the programs are great. They've been working out. Like I said, I'm going to start the other one soon. But, hey, sometimes people need to think about what you're doing. And sometimes we think so much of like working out and dieting and all that, of like restricting intake. Man, sometimes you got to up your intake of things. And as long as you're upping that intake with quality things and the right things, I think we should continue to see positive gains and things. So,
Yeah.
Which, we're getting ready to go in summer, so the shred should be good too. So we'll see where everything goes coming up.
Oh, it helps out.
All right. So you said the new rule change came out today. Go ahead and hit us with it to end. So we'll look it up and talk about it tomorrow.
All right. So
So
what I can remember off the top of my head, hair is pretty much wide open now. They've changed it to where pulling hair is now a unsportsmanlike or something. So you don't have to have the hair thing anymore. There's no limit. So people want to have the hair long, as long as it's not abrasive.
Now, this is national, not just state, right?
Yeah, National Federation. There's that one. Weigh-ins now are in singlets. So girls can weigh in with guys now, because you have to weigh in either the full singlet, probably up, straps up, or with the shirt. So a female can actually weigh in the form-fitting shirt, and that way they can do the skin check. So now you can do skin check, which that one's going to be interesting, doing skin checks with full singlets up, because you're going to get those people. But it is to make it so that places to encourage more females, and it said transgender and stuff like that. So that's going to be an interesting topic. They made it so now if an opponent calls for injury time as their opponent is in the process of scoring, normally all of a sudden they call injury time, you're getting taken out, you call injury time, they wave it off. Now, if the officials feel that if the injury time was not called, that they would have scored, they are to award the points and start injury time. So there was that. Fourth, stalling is automatic stoppage and choice, even for like a top wrestler, things like that. So instead of letting it roll now to kind of give it, so that guy gets that fourth stalling, now that person gets to now they'll stop the action and let them choose. So third period, guys winning by 2, other guy stalls, that gives him that point or whatever it might be. But he stalls it out and wins by 1. Well, now the opponent can actually choose bottom, have a chance to get up, tie the match. So, and there was a couple other things. I'm just going to, those are the ones, like I said, I love the hair. I do like I know it's kind of touching on, I do like the singlet because it does help out. So trying to find a female to weigh them in.
Yeah. Now, it kind of also goes to the international style. They just go weigh in a singlet too. So it's kind of adopting the international style of weigh-ins, which makes sense.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When you mentioned it at first and you said the singlets, I kind of like shook my head. But then the more I thought about it, it's like, you're right. Yeah, because how often have we gone to tournaments and we've had to sit there and be like, hey, do y'all have a female trainer? We got our girls
Yeah,
needs
you
to
gotta
weigh in.
wait and all
And
that.
then, yeah, it just makes things 20
And you
times
go
more
to any
difficult.
tournament out of season. I mean, I had to take Kel all over this year, and you go
Yeah,
to
it's all
you go to Tulsa, and there's 1,000 kids lined up sitting there in singlets, females too.
So,
Yeah.
all right,
It just
cool.
makes
We'll
things
check that
difficult.
out. Let's look up any other rule change we see. We'll want to see how that trickles down to each state because sometimes some states take a little bit longer to adopt said rule changes. Although right now everybody should have plenty of time to discuss and write up and think about all those rule changes.
I'm
And,
actually going to be doing my
did you
video
talk about,
next on it.
yeah.
Wait, what?
I was gonna say last week, I don't know if I caught y'all on time or not. I sent it to Ed, but did y'all catch Geringer coming to Ann Arbor?
Yeah, no, we talked about it. So,
We said you weren't there because you were celebrating, so it's
yeah,
okay.
Yes.
We gave,
Yes, that's what it was.
but then the
So,
Detroit Lions
I didn't
made their picks in the draft, and so you're crying.
yeah. So we said Detroit's going to mess up the draft, and he's happy about things. It's those two things were not coming last time around.
I'm telling you, man, I really wish we would have drafted Isaiah Simmons, honestly, in the draft. But however, I'm not opposed to who we got. I mean, we did need another corner. After we got rid of Darius Slay, I do feel that Isaiah Simmons, however, would have been more useful because he can play. He could do many different things. But then again, I'm also not making millions of dollars to make these decisions. So
You could have been like the other 97% of the Niner Nation who thought we were going to trade back in the draft, but no, we used both first-round picks.
oh man, did
Yeah.
y'all didn't hear the rumors? So there was rumors going around because Miami wanted the first pick, and there was a rumors that they were considering getting Detroit's third pick, and that they were going to they weren't gonna swap picks, so it wasn't gonna be like Detroit gets the fifth pick and Miami gets third. They were looking at just giving them Miami the third, and then I think maybe trying to get some later round draft picks. And I'm like, no, why would you do that? Luckily, someone came to their senses and was like, that's a bad idea. Like,
One of the best things for us that came out of this draft was
all the wrestlers that got drafted.
all the wrestlers that got drafted, and then for the 49ers, we did you see we picked up a
The
solid
Fresno State All-American.
the Fresno State All-American, and then no, we picked up Redskins
Oh yeah, offensive tackle. Yep.
offensive tackle. That was the like 7-time Pro Bowler that didn't want to play last year, and you know you get a good guy when the coach, it was I think the Rams coach, he's in our division. When somebody asked them about, did you see that, Tyler? That somebody asked the Rams coach, said, "What about 49ers making that trade and getting the offensive tackle from Redskins?" He's like, "Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. I'm gonna go drink more now." You know?
Yeah.
That's my response.
Yeah, we're causing the other coaches to drink more than we're making good trades.
Yeah,
we lost a 6-time Pro Bowler and picked up a 7-time Pro Bowler. So
yeah, so I'm down with that one. I think we did it all right. So
yeah, I was okay with that one once I heard everything that went down. So
yeah, once on the back, the trade.
And I mean, I love, we're talking about people going, that was the whole Facebook bashing. What are we doing? And I was just like, guys, I'm a faithful. So guess what? Look what they did. I believe in them. So until they prove me otherwise.
There's an interesting thing I wanted to ask you about real quick before we get off. Because you live in Alabama, don't you?
Yeah. What are you trying to say? Watch, be careful here. We don't see you
no. How
South Carolina.
How have the storms been there this year? Because I know here in South Carolina we've hit really bad. Yeah. I was mentioning the other day. I think due to like some of the changes in weather and stuff that we've become like another tornado alley. Because in April alone, we had, they said, I think it was 26 tornadoes in April alone.
Actually, and this is going to hit Ed. I found this out. Oklahoma is not where most tornadoes are. I think Alabama is number one in the nation in most tornadoes. Not Oklahoma. I know it's that way. They've been where we have been in I'm just south of Birmingham. So we're kind of hit and miss. We've gotten some storms. Tuscaloosa, those areas have been hit. North of us, where it's more of the rural, that's been hit. And actually back home in Alex City, last Sunday, I think it was. Yeah, not this Sunday, but the Sunday before. There was a lot of tornadoes that hit. And actually one went right behind Mom's house.
Wow.
And picked up and went. So there was like a couple small ones that kind of bounced over their house. And so if you go back in those woods behind where my mom lived, there's a bunch of stuff down. And a lot of trees and things down. So, I mean, it's, as we say down here, maybe like you guys do in South, it's tornado season in Alabama. I mean, it's,
Well,
Yeah.
see, no,
We hadn't, but I think Tyler's honest, and like I said, whether it be a second tornado alley or
because
this we're getting to that point.
yeah, we have. I mean, our storms in the past couple of years have been getting significantly stronger. I was just looking up stuff like someone, it was the news was talking about it, and then I started looking more into it. They're saying that something that I've noticed too, but the storms have been getting more strong, and not only have they gotten stronger, but the tornadoes when they hit, like we've seen tornadoes, especially at Bowling Springs. They'll be
They haven't
F1s.
stayed on the ground as long as they have.
Yeah, and they've been weak. But now we're starting to.
But now they're hitting, rolling through.
Yeah, they're starting to hit. Like we had an EF3 hit in Seneca like last week on Easter Sunday. Then there was one down in Hampton County or something, I think, something like that. That was an F4. And they said the other thing that was interesting is that the times these tornadoes are hitting now have changed. Like back they said about 5 to 10 years ago, our average time for severe weather and tornadoes has been 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Well, now it's starting to look like it's 8 p.m. through the middle of the night. And they're getting stronger. They're getting more frequent. I mean, just the other night, we had three supercells come in back to back to back within a matter of a few hours. And it's a little disconcerting because, this area, we've had some severe storms in the past, but this area itself is not built to handle things like in Tornado Alley. They have buildings that are, actually they're built in different ways to withstand these heavy winds. Here we're not. So like when we get an F1, it looks bad. But when we start getting these F2s and F3s, it's coming. Yeah, it just looks like, it looks like a end of a world type thing. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we saw what it did to Greenville, and it was just a EF2. I mean, what happened in Seneca? Seneca looked like they got hit by an atomic bomb.
Well, there's still stuff. Yeah, there's still places here from, I guess, 6-7 years ago when the ones went through Tuscaloosa and went up through the north. I mean, driving from Birmingham to Chattanooga, it's different than whenever I drove. I mean, Ed, Ed hasn't been that way, but he went back and forth with me so much. Even you would be like, this is not the same road. And it's because there have been massive tornadoes that have come through. And yeah, I think there's been more storms. I also say that too, and it has been later. And I also say too, we're now more alert. We have more radar. We're able to catch things a lot more to what's going on. I think that ties into the fact that there are more storms. And as much as I say we're getting older, so we pay attention more than we were when we were kids. It was just like my kids now, we come sleep down here in the basement if there's a tornado warning, and they're just like, okay, they go back to sleep. I was the same way. So
yeah. See, I usually storms don't bother me, but when earlier this year when I got caught up in the tornado here at the house, I was outside when it happened and I had to run through it. That was pretty, it was pretty, eye raising because, I've heard of tornadoes and, you see them on the news and you're like, okay, it's nothing. But when you see something like that, like firsthand, and it was considered a weak EF1. I mean, when you see something like that firsthand, you're just kind of like, oh, okay. It kind of
still people that aren't back in their houses from that one. Like they're still.
Yeah, I know. I know a guy who his entire house was destroyed. He was a regular at the restaurant. He came in. I was asking him about it. He's like, yeah, this was before the virus and all that. But he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I'm living at a hotel right now. My house is destroyed. It's flooded. Like there's water all up in it. Half the lights don't work. The roof is taken off, and that's just an EF1. So.
I just got an alert outside of some other text messages I've been to. Yeah, we got an alert that we got more storms coming tomorrow. So. Once again, like I said, we're like it's that time of the season, and I guess over here it's just you're kind of used to it, and
so be used to it, but still be alert and be safe. So
yeah, that's it. So now we can get to where we need to go. So
all right, well, I'll get all this stuff uploaded, and we'll holler at you guys next week. We'll talk rule changes, and maybe we'll see something else. Maybe somebody else will get hired, moved around, or some other new wrestling news. So
There you go. We talked about who the RTC South should get. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they still haven't filled that position yet. So.
And hopefully, and I should know something from Rochelle, they're meeting on May the 1st to find out about summer camps. So
yeah, I was going to ask that question too. So on top of what school's going to look like, what is this summer going to look like for camps and all that kind of stuff? So
Plug in Parlor. Parlor's open. They've already announced it. Parlor Wrestling, Missouri. They're open.
yeah,
know a friend of
I got
mine-
that email today, but so.
I know a friend of mine plays basketball at Upstate, and they were talking about if we have sports next year for like college, they said that it's probably going to be like only interstate, and they won't be able to leave certain areas.
Wow.
That's just talk, though. That's just talk.
Yeah, I think everything. We can get into that next week.
All right, yeah. Next week we'll be talking about the future of sports and whatnot. Rule changes.
All right.
All right, guys. We'll see you.
Bye bye.
See ya.